Irving Collins Jr. My son's names are Corey Irving Collins, age 16, and Miles Irving Collins, age 9.
How did you feel the moment you found out you were going to be a father?
Man, I was overjoyed. I think it was the first time that I was going to be given an opportunity to now be the person who I had most admired, the most, which was my father.
How has being a father changed you?
Um, it's humbled me. It's made me truly understand consequences, um, and it made me really understand that my life is not my own, and I'm really not living for me. Which means my decisions, my thought process has to be reflective of my children.
How has the relationship you and your father have affected the way you raise your children?
Uh, Good and bad. I think that we live in two different times. So there are certain times that it causes turmoil between me and my own father when I see ways that he may interact with my grandchildren that produce the cause and effect thing within me. I'll give you an example. Uh, when he was, a little scuffle that my youngest had in school, and he was telling him, like, well, when you see him, you put his face through his nose. So I was trying to explain to him, this is not that day and time. You can't uh, really have that kind of teaching nowadays. And we got into it. And he said, well, I raised you like that. If I wouldn't have raised you like that, you would have been a punk. And it got loud. And I said, well, if I had the choice then to raise a punk and a son that was still living, I would go for the punk. So he comes from that old gang war mentality. He really doesn't understand it. But, a lot of things that were relevant back then aren't relevant now.
What is something that he has taught you that maybe back then you may not have saw? What is something he's taught you that you realize no matter what time period it is, that's right, my dad.
Sacrifice. But one thing comes to mind is, uh, man, my dad, he was a very prideful father. And my remembrance of him is just that he always sacrificed. Uh, Back then my mother worked late shift. So, it wasn't a thing where he sent us off to somewhere. Like, he watched us, uh, which cut into a lot of his social life and private time. If you talk about football days, from the moment I played Little League to up and through high school, he videotaped every single game, which was embarrassing back then. But when I look at what that means to take off work and miss money because your son got a football game, and to make your way up on the roof, you know what I mean? And to tape that, I really appreciate that, and it's just real sacrifice.
What is something that uh, what is something that you do different than outside of the physical thing? What is something that you said, I'm not going to do that with my son. I saw my dad do this. It may have helped me, may not have helped me, but I don't think I want to do this.
Man, it's just that arduous task because nobody wants to raise a son that is a punk by the world standard. You look at a man, you look at a father, you look at somebody who's strong, who that in the event it needs to go down, they're able to protect themselves. But there is a delicate balance. Um, I just think by my gene pool, my son's going to pick up on have certain things, but I'm not going to promote uh, just that physicality of things. Um, I want him to concentrate on problem solving and using that energy to get himself out of a situation more so than being physical, fighting.
Raising a teenage young black male in today's society? What are some of those challenges?
Oh man, it's very difficult because just by the difference of the children with the easy access to internet and things like that, they're open and exposed to so many different things. So just trying to be present and relevant, so you can actually have those difficult conversations with your children. And my main thing is being honest and exposing some of my downfalls.
When trying to teach your son through your own personal experiences, how do you walk the line of telling him what you want him to know, but not telling him too much?
How much is too much? Because the thing about it is I think that it should be age appropriate, but then you got to also redefine what the new appropriate age is. Because back when we were coming up, you ain't really discuss anything. I don't know if you had that sex conversation with your parents, but I had it with my child when he was 9 years old. Why? Because in school, this is the things that they're talking about. So you can put on a deaf ear and say, well, I'm not going to touch that because that's not appropriate, but it's inappropriate in their other social settings. So you have to make it appropriate uh, in your conversation. So I think it's all relevant.
How do what's something that you do with your kids that may be unique to you guys that you think other fathers could use in their repertoire of father?
Well, I won't say that it's unique, but I think that as you probably too, you just always infuse that element of laughter and that jovial side, man. I think that it just historically, this is how we deal with certain situations, and I think that you really can talk about anything if you add that element of laughter to it. I think it soothes those painful conversations, especially when you got different things like breakups, divorces, and other issues that may come up.
How was it raising two kids, two separate households?
It was very difficult, and to this day it presents a lot of challenges. Um, I think that it's important for that whole co-parenting aspect to be talked about and explored, because the reality of it is that people are going to do more breaking up than they are getting together. The statistics show that divorce rate is 50% or higher. So I think the discussion of having, talking about people being together, I think that the discussion needs to be had. How do we deal in this situation? How do we co-parent from here?
What what advice could you give to parents going through
Uh, uh, for them to see the importance of a two-parent household and what that means. What does it really mean to co-parent? And the benefits, for them to be honest with themselves about the benefits of a child having access to both of his parents, to both the good and the bad, which means that a lot of times you have to really put your needs on a back burner. Um, Allow that father to be just that, a father to his children, regardless of what has previously happened. And understand that I think a lot of men have to understand too, when men and women break up, there is a trust factor. And I don't think that we understand all the time the damage that we've done, to make that situation a little uncomfortable for that woman. You know, they can't really understand. I'll give you an example. So, say for instance, if your thing was infidelity, uh, now you want to wonder why she won't let you see your child. It's not right at all. But co-parenting is just like a business, and it has to be trust on both ends. So if you broke that trust, you really have to work to repair that trust. Um, it's always we get convenient amnesia when a lot of times things go wrong, and we want to be in a barbershop talking about she's crazy, she's this, she's that, but we fail to realize, we made her like that. So we had to work to undo those things that we did.
With that being said, how do you teach your son about his treatment towards women?
Well, it's very, and I'm very adamant about teaching that, because there are tangible examples that they can pull from when they can honestly say, "Dad, you didn't do that." So I feel like I have to work doubly as hard um, to really instill that this is the way it goes. In anywhere from abuse to the infidelity thing. Um, just working on the character part of it. Like, there are things that you do and things that you don't do. And I think the most important thing, like you spoke about earlier, how far do you go? I think it's important. Like, to be honest with you, me and my son had to have that conversation about me hitting his mom. And it was hard for me. But I had to really be honest about him, that this is what happened, this is why it happened, and, give it to him with no chaser. In the event that he's faced with that same problem, he could better be able to navigate it.
And there's fathers sitting back who would say, I would never share that with my kid. But why is it so important that you make sure you tell them not some of the truth, but all of the truth?
Well, I'm going to give it to you real clear. There was an incident in my life, to be honest with you, where I attempted suicide. And it was a time in my life where I was going through like a bad custody battle. And I just thought that at that time, like, being a father was the paramount experience of my life. And the thought that I was going to lose my children, my child, my second son, was just too much for me to handle at the time. So, like, I put a bullet in the chamber, put it in my mouth, and I pulled the trigger. It didn't go off. I mean, I went as far as to record, like, a video for my friends and family, like, apologizing for letting them down. So when you say how much is too much, and at that time, I had friends in my life, I was close with my father, but I felt too embarrassed to actually bring that to him, that I had actually come that low. So when you say how much is too much, there is nothing that's too much, because I told my children about that, not because I was proud of it, but I wanted to know that sometimes, in silence, your weakness is embellished. So had I reached out to somebody, you know what I mean? They could have said, like, look, bro, look, let me explain this to you. So if my son is faced with that same very thing, he'll say, look, my dad told me about this. It's okay to have those feelings. But listen, this is what you do with them. Because at that time, we as men, we get into these things, certain things you don't do. Because we got to, keep up with this persona of what a man is. And we would rather suffer in silence than reach out to somebody to help us.
What is a man to you?
A man is it's love. It's a silent strength. It's being able to withstand. It's being able to persevere and push through. It's long suffering. It's a selfless, thankless job, but I embrace it.
What is your proudest moment as a father so
far? My proudest moment is when I gained joint custody of my second son. That was a battle that I had fought for about 5 years. And I remember, like, just looking across at him having breakfast, and a weight was just lifted off. Because all I had to do was focus on is being a parent, being a father. I would get 4 days, every other weekend. That's only 4 days a month. So out of 4 days, I had to divvy up discipline, love, all these other things. I had to try to give them the right amount and dosage of them, because I didn't want them to miss out on it. So all I had to do, was just focus on being a parent. And that was a beautiful thing.
What about a brother that's going through that right now, fighting custody battle, and just ready to give up? Why is it so important that he doesn't give up?
Because most importantly, I think that, children, it's a cliche, but they are our most prized possessions. and your fight is not for you, it's for them. So I understand that, the task is arduous and you get weary, but that fight is not for you to be consumed by. It's for you to push through because your children need you. And let's be real about it. A lot of times they don't even know how much they need you. Sometimes they can be brainwashed by the mother if you're dealing with a situation that it's a broken home, and your children can present like they're upset with you sometimes, but you have to push through that and know that they still need you, and they need you to push for them and advocate for them.
Is there anything you would like to say to the mother of your children?
Sorry. I think that I accept full responsibility for the things that I did. And I think that, when we realize, going back to saying, what I said, that convenient amnesia, when we forget what we've done, sometimes it's as basic as really looking in the mirror and seeing yourself as you really are. Sometimes we get paraded with other people's perception of us, but when you get in that quiet space and you really look at yourself in the mirror and look at the things that you've done and that whole cause and effect, so you got to go to a couple people and you got to say sorry for the things that you did that caused the situation to be the way that it is.
What are the challenges raising two boys that are not in the same house, or two kids that are not in the same house, and what advice or techniques could you give to other fathers who are in that situation now to make that bond between those two a brotherly bond more than kind of just like passing in the night type brothers, to make it a family?
Well, definitely time. I think that you have to give an explanation of how important it is. Sometimes we take for granted while we give our teachings. Sometimes you just now knowing why your father did things right now as a child, because he just did them and you kind of had to find them out. But I think it's very important to explain to your children the importance of doing certain things. Like, I just give you an example, just over this holiday, because my oldest is 16 and he lives in Delaware. He got girlfriend, sports. I don't see him as often as I would like. I do give him that leeway to kind of do his things, and I don't really press upon, you got to come this week. This is your week. The things that he can get from you that he can't even get from me. And he embraced it. He said, Dad, I'm going to make sure that I come up here. I'm going to make sure I'm going to stay in constant contact with him, because he kind of understood. And versus me just saying, your brother needs you, getting an attitude, because he really doesn't understand. He's synthesizing things through his 16-year-old mind, whereas I'm bringing in all my baggage and trying to help him get this message.
Something you would like to say to your father that you may have never said, or just want him to know, that you don't mind sharing in this format?
Oh man, just thank you. He to me is the epitome of what a father is. His sacrifice, his love that you don't get in the inner workings of a marriage, but I can say that I've seen love. I've seen him show my mom love, and he was, from what I've seen, he was always gentle with my mother, and he always loved us, and I knew it. I knew that I had something special at an early age. When I played Little League football, and my dad was the only father that was there. I knew back then that I had something special.
Who's your favorite TV father and why?
I would have to say, if I had to choose, it would be D.L. Hughley.
Girl, don't you walk away from me.
I can't believe you did that to me. You are
Ruining your life. Yeah, well, I'm a father, and I gave you life, and I'll ruin it if I damn well feel like it.
You're acting just like Mom. I thought you were different. I thought we were friends.
Friends don't let friends dress like hoochies. And look, pack all this stuff up. It's going right back to the store. Unless I run into little Kim, and she gives me a better price for it.
I don't believe this. You said I could get whatever I want.
And you said you were going to get a belt and some socks. You lied to me. Now, look, maybe it's my fault because I've been trying to be your father and your friend. Well, I got a lot of friends and only one daughter. And I know you want to get to all this yelling and slamming doors, so I'll tell you what, I'm going to save you some time.
In this series, because he's real. You can see it's evident of the love that that he has for his children, but he has a little unorthodox way of showing it sometimes. But you know it, and his children know it. So I would say, yeah.
Last thing, what does the term, the movement, the group, Father's Day 365 mean in your life?
It's a celebration, bitches. No, but seriously, I think that it means on the clock, nonstop fatherhood. It's a celebration of fathers doing what we do. It's unfortunate a lot of times where you hear the media talk about fathers that's not present. You know, but when I talk to my homies, I talk to my family, we all good fathers. So I think it's important to get that message out and let people know for these new kids that's coming along, like it's cool to be a father. It's cool to love your children, and it's cool that they know it. You know what I mean? I think that we got to evolve as fathers. Anything that doesn't evolve goes extinct. So we got to change that old way of thinking and just redefine what fatherhood is. You know, maybe back in the day, fatherhood was that strong, silent present, but things are different now. Hug your children, love them. You know what I mean? Love their mothers. Message that I really want to give to my sons is I just want to thank them. Thank them for causing me to mature and helping me be a better man. And just remember that I'm not perfect, but I'm present, and I always will be. And I love them very much. I'm not perfect, but I'm present, and I always will be. And I love them very much.